In November 2023, a law school in San Francisco sent an email to its students. Golden Gate University, a school that had been training lawyers for a century, announced it was done. No more JDs, the program would wind down, current students would be shipped off to other schools to finish their degrees, and that was that. And students sued to stop it. A judge let the closure stand anyway. And almost everybody treated it as a one off, a struggling school in an expensive city. Sad, but not really a signal of anything. But I don't think it was a one off. I think it was a rehearsal. My name is Steve Schwartz. I've been coaching the LSAT since 2005, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how a law school dies, month by month, meeting by meeting, from the boom year that fools everybody to the morning a 3L finds out from a push alert that his school won't exist by the time he's supposed to graduate. Now, there are 5 warning signs that showed up before every law school closure of the past decade. All 5 of them are public, and I'll show you how to check any school you're considering in about 5 minutes. Now, the school dies because of one sentence buried in a loan document that most law students have never heard of. But first, the rehearsals, because Golden Gate was not the first. In 2017, Whittier Law School in California announces its closing. That made it the first fully accredited American law school to announce it was shutting down for good. Students protested on campus, and it didn't matter. Same year, you had Charlotte School of Law. The federal government cut off its access to student loan money in December 2016. The school was dead within 9 months. And the students were still showing up, but the money quit first. Then Valparaiso in Indiana, then Arizona Summit, then Concordia in Idaho, then Florida Coastal, which also lost its federal loan access and shut down, and then Golden Gate. So it was 7 law schools gone in about 7 years. Now, here's what those closures have in common, and it's not what you think. Every single one looked sudden from the outside. An email, a news story, shocked students, but every single one was visible earlier in public data. Falling enrollment, rising scholarship discounts, bar passage slipping, employment numbers nobody would brag about. It was all sitting in public filings the entire time. So the students weren't reckless, they just didn't know where to look. And so I'm going to show you the next one before it happens. And I'm going to call this school Meridian Law, private, mid-sized, founded in the 1920s, attached to a tuition-dependent university in a mid-sized American city. Ranked somewhere in the 120s, about 480 students, sticker price around $58,000 a year, all-in cost of attendance around $78,000 a year once you add living expenses. If you lined it up next to 30 or 40 real law schools, you could not tell it apart. And our story starts in the spring of 2026, and here's the strange part. It starts with the best year Meridian ever had. The 2025 admissions cycle was historic, applicants up 18% nationally, the biggest pool in over a decade according to the LSAT. 191 of the 197 accredited law schools saw applications rise, and the surge kept rolling into the 2026 cycle. Meridian's dean stands up at the spring board meeting with the best slide deck of his career. Applications up 24%, the entering class is full, and it's full at a smaller discount than usual because when demand is hot, schools don't have to bribe students to come. So the board does what boards do in a boom. They approve the thing they've wanted for a decade, a $21 million renovation of the new building, new trial courtroom, new student commons, financed with debt because rates are manageable and the projections look great. Now, to be fair to Meridian's board, the story they told themselves made sense. Politics was chaotic and young people wanted to fight about justice. AI was eating other careers and a law degree felt durable. Every trend line pointed up. But anyone who lived through the last cycle knew this movie. After 2008, applications boomed past 87,000, schools expanded, and then by 2013, the pool collapsed to around 54,000. The schools that grew during that boom spent a decade paying for it. Some of the 7 schools I just listed never made it back. Application booms come and go, but the debt from a building doesn't. Now, a few weeks ago, The single most important date in this whole story, July 1st, has nothing to do with Meridian specifically. That is the day the federal Grad Plus program died for new borrowers. Here's what Grad Plus was. If you got into any accredited law school, the federal government would lend you the entire cost of attendance, tuition, rent, food, books, all of it. Nobody checked whether that school's graduates got jobs. Getting in was the only test there was. And that program is what made a $78,000 a year law school possible for a 24-year-old with no assets. It quietly kept the entire bottom half of legal education in business. Under the new law, a law student can borrow $50,000 a year from the federal government, $200,000 for life, and that's it. Now, Meridian costs about $234,000 over 3 years at Sticker. Even with a partial scholarship, lots of Meridian students need more than the federal cap allows, and the rest has to come from private lenders or banks. And banks do something the federal government never did. They read the outcomes data before they say yes. Now, fall 2026, Meridian is recruiting a class that will enroll in August 2027. On paper, everything still looks fine. Applications are still running high. Admitted students are committing. The renovation has a groundbreaking date. And then spring 2027 arrives and the deposits start behaving strangely. Here's a student for you. I'll call her Dana, first gen, poli-sci major, 3.4 GPA, 156 LSAT. Meridian offers her a half tuition scholarship, which sounds generous until you do the math. She still needs about $130,000 over 3 years, and federal loans will only cover $100,000 of it. And so Dana applies to private lenders for the other $30,000. And the lenders pull up Meridian's numbers. Meridian's own ABA filings show 61% of its graduates landing full-time jobs that require bar passage. Median reported salary is in the mid-60s. So 2 lenders declined her. A third offers a 13% variable interest rate. Meanwhile, a public flagship 2 hours away with in-state tuition and 84% bar required employment offers Dana a package that fits entirely inside the federal caps. No private loan needed at all, and Dana's not stupid, so she leaves. Multiply Dana by 40. That is summer melt like Meridian has never seen. Students who committed in April quietly withdrawing in June and July. Law school still made sense to them, but financing at this particular school did not. Then August 2027, Meridian's entering class comes in 34 students short. And the students who did come needed bigger discounts to say yes. The discount rate, meaning the share of sticker price the school gives back as scholarships, jumps from 45% to 56% in a single year. So they've got fewer students, each one paying less. And so net tuition revenue drops about 19% in 1 year. And that curve comes straight from the real closures. Remember Golden Gate? In 2011, 47% of its students were on scholarship according to its own ABA filings. By 2022, the year before the closure email, it was 81%. So 4 out of every 5 students discounted at a school that needed every tuition dollar to stay alive. Valparaiso ran the same curve. 26% of students on grants in 2011, 66% by its final year of filings, with the student body down by more than half. Every school on that closure list has a version of that chart sitting in its public filings, and nobody was reading it. Inside Meridian, nobody's reading it either. Class sizes bounce around all the time. The dean tells the board it's a rebuild year, and the renovation continues. Now, here's where I have to explain that sentence I told you about at the start. When Meridian's university borrowed $21 million for that building, the loan agreement came with conditions. Lenders call them covenants. And one of them says, in effect, the borrower's net tuition revenue must stay above a stated floor measured annually. In plain English, that means the bank made the school promise that the money coming in from students would never drop below a set number. If they cross that number, the borrower is in default. Not just behind on payments, they are in default with the whole loan on the table, renegotiated on the bank's terms at the worst possible moment. And most students have no idea these promises exist, and most professors don't either. But that sentence, or one like it, is sitting in the loan files of a lot of tuition-dependent schools that borrowed money to build things during the good years. Then in fall 2028, Meridian's audited numbers for the fiscal year land on the CFO's desk. Second straight year of shrinking enrollment. Discount rate is now 58%, and net tuition revenue is below the covenant floor. So the university's auditors flag it. The bank gets notified because they have to be notified, and from that moment, Meridian's future is no longer being decided by its dean or its faculty. It's being decided by a workout group at a regional bank. That is the team the bank sends in when it thinks a loan is going bad. And that's the part that nobody tells you. A law school doesn't die when students stop applying. It dies when its lenders stop believing the projections. And so the last year goes a lot faster, and almost none of it happens publicly. In winter 2029, the university declares financial exigency, the academic version of a distress signal. That legal status lets it break tenure and cut faculty. 9 professors take buyouts. The academic support office, the people who run bar prep, goes from 5 staff down to 2. Then in February 2029, bar results come in soft. Meridian's 2-year bar passage rate slides towards 75%, which is the ABA's accreditation floor. Below it, the school is broke and out of compliance at the same time. Then in spring 2029, applicants are aware of this also. Applications drop 31% in a single cycle. And the admissions office responds the only way it can, with even deeper discounts, which digs the revenue hole deeper yet again. So there's a spiral, which they've got to cut prices to fill seats, they lose revenue, they cut quality, they scare off applicants, and they cut prices again. That cycle's now been running for 2 full years, and it only spins in one direction. Then in September 2029, the university's board meets in executive session. The bank has priced out every scenario. Keeping the law school open costs the university about $9 million a year it doesn't have, and so the vote isn't even close. And then it's October 16th, 2029, 9:40 on a Tuesday morning, and a 3L named Marcus is sitting in evidence when his phone buzzes. A local reporter got the story 20 minutes before the school sent the email. Quote, "University to close law school, teach out plan to be announced." Now, Marcus has got $147,000 of debt tied to a school that will not exist when his loans come due. His degree will say Meridian on it forever, and class stops. Nobody says anything useful because nobody knows anything. The official email lands at 10:05 a.m. and uses the phrase orderly wind down 3 times. Now, a teach out, by the way, is the plan regulators require when a school closes. Current students either finish at the dying school or they transfer somewhere that will have them. Golden Gate students got one. Whittier students got one. They're real, they mostly work, and nobody who's been through one recommends it. That's how it ends. A covenant, an audit, a vote, and then a push alert. Now let's go roll back to 2026. Meridian doesn't exist yet, but the closures are real. The loan caps are real, the covenants are real, and dozens of real schools are carrying some version of Meridian's math right now this year. Now, I can't find a scenario where every tuition-dependent law school outside the top 100 survives the next 5 years. The financing that keeps the weakest one alive is already gone. That part is on the books, and it took effect this month. And so, what do you do with this? Because if you're applying in the next few years, this is not a spectator sport. You have real power here, and most applicants don't know it. There are 5 warning signs. Every one of them showed up before the real closures, and every one is public. Takes about 5 minutes per school. Google the school's name plus 509. The American Bar Association requires every accredited law school to publish a standard disclosure report every year, and it's all there. The first sign is a shrinking entering class 3 years in a row. Second sign is the discount spiral. The 509 shows what percentage of students get grants and how big the median grant is. If the grants keep growing while the class keeps shrinking, the school is cutting price to fill seats, and that's a sign of distress. Then the third sign is bar passage drifting toward 75%. The ABA publishes each school's ultimate bar passage rate. The closer that number sits to the accreditation floor, the closer the school is to losing its money and its accreditation in the same year. The fourth sign is employment. You want to look for the percentage of graduates in full-time, long-term jobs that require bar passage. If it's above 75%, that's healthy. If it's below 65%, that's the same number every private lender is about to read before deciding whether your classmates can even finance their spots. And the fifth sign is the money behind the school. You want to search the university's name plus budget cuts, bond rating, financial exigency. Those are signs of distress. If there's a shiny new building in a campus in distress, that is not a good sign. It's often the debt that is the problem. And then you want to ask the admissions office how this year's entering class compares to 3 years ago and watch whether they answer with specific numbers or whether they're vague. If they just give you marketing brochure, you've got your answer there. And everything I just talked about is bad news for weak schools, but it's excellent news for schools that are strong, because the schools that survive this are about to spend the next decade competing harder than ever for students who bring two things. One, numbers that protect the school's medians, and financing that does not depend on a nervous private lender. And a strong LSAT score gives you both. It gets you into schools that were never in danger, and it makes the safe schools pay for you to choose them because your LSAT score protects their median, and the median protects their applicant pool. And that's what keeps the lenders calm. In a market like this where they're under a lot of stresses, your LSAT score decides whether you're going to safe schools or schools that are exposed. And a better LSAT score can get you more scholarship money, maybe even a full ride. And if you want my help getting your LSAT score up, I'm happy to help you out. I'm offering free LSAT tutoring for everybody watching this now or later. You can book that free LSAT tutoring with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. I've also put together a free LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. It's a quick reference on everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension. You can grab that free cheat sheet at unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. Links below, pinned in the chat, in my bio on TikTok and IG. Happy to help you out. Now, in 2011, Florida Coastal School of Law had 1,742 students. By 2017, they had 655 students, and by 2021, they had none because the school was gone. Now, every one of those numbers was published by the school itself in a report they were required to file every single year, sitting on their website free for anybody who felt like looking. Now, a student who enrolled there in 2015 could have read 4 years of those filings in an afternoon and seen the whole thing coming, but nobody ever told them the document existed. My name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and reading these filings is a big part of what I do now. And so today I'm going to show you how to read one the way I read one, number by number, straight through the document. By the end of this, you'll be able to take any law school on your list and work out in about 5 minutes whether it's stable or whether it's in trouble. And we're going to use the schools that already died as the answer key. 7 fully accredited American law schools closed or announced they were closing between 2017 and 2023. And I pulled the actual filings on 3 of them so you can see what these exact lines looked like in the years before the end. 2 things to hold on to before we start. One of the numbers I'm going to show you turned 5 years before Florida Coastal collapsed. And when you see which number it is, you'll understand why enrollment is where a school's trouble shows up last. And the same document will also show you how to find out which law schools will pay you to show up, and first why this matters this year and not 5 years ago. On July 1st, 2026, a few weeks ago, the federal Grad Plus loan program ended for new borrowers. Grad Plus was simple. You get into any accredited law school, and the federal government would lend you the entire cost of attendance, including tuition, rent, groceries, bar prep, all of it. And nobody at the Department of Education looked at whether that school's graduates got hired. If you were in, you were funded. That is over. Under the new law, a law student can borrow $50,000 a year from the federal government $200,000 for life, and that is the ceiling. Anything above the cap comes from a private lender. And a private lender does the thing the federal government never did. It reads the outcomes before it decides whether to fund your seat. Now, for over a decade, a struggling law school could stay open on federal money, no matter how ugly its numbers got, because the money followed the student, and the student only had to get in. That backstop is gone as of this month. Now, the weakest schools have to convince a bank their graduates can pay it back. Now, your older cousin, who started law school in 2018, never carried that risk, but you do. And we already know how fast it goes when the financing stops because it's happened before. In December 2016, the federal government cut Charlotte School of Law off from student loan money. They were closed by August 2017, 8 months later, start to finish, at a school that was still holding classes the week the decision came down. And nothing about the school changed in those 8 months except who was willing to fund it. Same stretch of time, Whittier Law School in California announced it was closing, and that made it the first fully accredited American law school to say out loud it was shutting down for good. And then 6 more followed inside 7 years, so it stopped being unprecedented almost immediately. Now, from the outside, legal education looks like it's booming. The 2025 cycle was the biggest applicant pool in over a decade. Applicants up 18%, and 191 of the 197 accredited law schools saw applications rise. Now, we've watched the boom lie before. After 2008, applications ran past 87,000. By 2013, the pool was down around 54,000. The schools that expanded on the way up spent the next decade paying for it, and a few of them are on that list of 7. Now, if you Google the name of any accredited law school plus the number 509, you will see the standard 509 information report from the American Bar Association every year. It's a PDF sitting on the school's own site, no login, nothing to buy, nothing to sign up for. Now, I want to give you one rule before you read a single number. Don't just look at this year's report, look at the past 3 years to get context, or even better, this year's plus 3 years ago, plus 5 years ago. Now, a single 509 report tells you almost nothing because every school's current filing is built to look fine. The story lives in the change over time. So look at 3 in context, compare them to each other. You want to start with enrollment. The report gives you total JD students and the size of the incoming class. Whether it's a big school or a small one doesn't matter. You want to look at the direction. Is the trend line up? Is the trend down? What's the trend over 5 years? Now, Valparaiso Law in Indiana filed 566 students in 2011, but in 2018, they had less than half that, only 216. Golden Gate in San Francisco had 732 students in 2011, down to 298 by 2023. Florida Coastal, 1,742, down to 655 in only 6 years. So that's a downward slope over time, filing after filing over the course of a decade or so, or even less than that. Then look at grants and scholarships. The 509 report tells you how many of a school's students are receiving grant money and what share of the student body that is. Almost everybody skips this, but this is not financial aid trivia. This is important. This is actually the most useful page in the document. For Golden Gate in 2011, 47% of students on scholarship. In 2022, the year before the school announced it was ending its JD program, 81% on scholarship, 4 out of every 5 students getting money off. For Valparaiso, 26% of students on grants in 2011, up to 66% in their last filing. Florida Coastal, 46% in 2011, up to 71% in 2016. In 2016, they were still enrolling hundreds of people who had 5 years left before the doors closed. Now, we don't want to overread this, of course. The 509 tells you the share of students getting some grant money. By itself, they're not telling you how deep the price cuts go. Now, when it climbs 20 or 30 points, though, while the head count is falling, that's a big red flag. If they're losing applicants, they don't announce that. They just offer more money to the people they can still attract. So class size could still hold up for another year or two, but then, of course, the enrollment collapse will come after the school runs out of room to discount. That's why the money moves first. Now, you want to read these two lines together as a result. Students falling over time, the share on scholarship rising, 3 filings in a row. That's what you want to look for. That is the biggest red flag. But you also want to look at bar passage rates. The 509 reports how the school's graduates did on the bar exam, and the number that decides the school's fate is the 2-year figure, what the ABA calls ultimate bar passage. That is the share of graduating class that passes a bar exam within 2 years of finishing. Now, the ABA's accreditation standard says that at least 75% of a school's graduates have to get there. That is a licensing thing, not rankings. If the school is under that line for long enough, they lose their accreditation. If they lose accreditation, they cannot enroll students who will be able to sit for most bar exams, which means they can't collect tuition, which means they're not really a school anymore. And so when you see a school hovering in the high 70s, that is a school with no margin. One rough graduating class, and they are in front of a committee, and they're in trouble with the ABA. Now, in their final filed years, first-time bar passage rate was only 35% at Golden Gate, 37% at Valparaiso, and 22% for Whittier's last graduating class. First time and 2-year are not the same thing, of course, but you can still get the general direction and the shape of what's going on there. All 3 schools were gone within a few years of posting those numbers. And so what you want on this page is pretty straightforward. You want to see ultimate bar passage rates in the high 80s or better, steady across all 3 ABA filings that you're looking at. If you see it drifting down 2 or 3 points a year, that is a big red flag. Now, separately, you want to look up the law school's employment rates. That's a separate report. Also under the ABA required disclosures, though. It's called the employment summary. You want to look for the percentage of students in full-time, long-term bar passage required jobs. Those are the actual lawyer jobs. For Golden Gate, only 61% were in full-time, long-term jobs of any kind. Whittier's class of 2017 was only 43%, and the lawyer job number is smaller, of course. Then you want to look for school-funded positions, because some schools hire their own unemployed graduates into short-term fellowships, and those graduates get counted as employed. This is legal, it's disclosed, but it's a big red flag, of course. Now, the private lenders are looking at all of this, of course. They want to see what the report says about the previous students to get a sense of what your outcomes are likely to be. A school with weak bar required employment has a financing problem. So this mechanism turns a slow decline into an email that the school is closing, ultimately, if you follow the trend line long enough. And so that's what you want to check for: enrollment trend, share on scholarship, ultimate bar passage rates, and full-time bar required employment. Those are 4 numbers, 3 years each, across 2 ABA documents that are totally free. Just look them up. And of course, if you want better outcomes, if you want to get more scholarship money, get into better schools that don't have these threats, of course, I'm happy to help you out. I want to get you the highest LSAT score possible to get you a full ride at law schools actually worth attending that are not at risk of shutting down. If you want my help getting there, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. I've also put together a free LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. You can grab that free cheat sheet at unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. Links below, pinned in the chat, in my bio as well. In the meantime, all the best, take care, and thanks for joining.